should Joe Biden be running again in 2024?
Yes.
Honestly,
Yes.
because I think I feel differently than you about this. So give me your pitch. Like, why do you think Joe Biden should run again in 2024?
Uh, the easy answer is the best option we have. The
Is he?
yes. Um,
Tell me
and
why.
I'm sure you can make this case that somebody. So let's if Joe Biden wasn't going to run for president, he should have said it at the State of the Union right before the midterm, and so that people had time to get used to that. Because right now the people running are RFK is a Republican and Marianne Williamson, and neither of them are going to win. So you're looking at somebody with name recognition who has the power. So you're looking at Kamala, Gavin Newsom, and like Michelle Obama.
Pete
Like that's it.
Buttigieg.
Okay, but Pete Buttigieg didn't do what like they're not
He
gonna.
did better than Kamala. He
Yeah, he
won a
did.
race. He
But
he won a primary.
yeah, but you know who won the whole thing? Joe Biden did.
That's true. That's true.
Like
But we could
that's
definitely
like
we could revisit the whole 2020 primary season because it's still like burned into my mind. So I
right.
like
Like
detail for detail here. But
this is why like the if we had better options, I would be more open for it. That's why I think 28 when it's Newsom and Kamala and Pete and whatever Chucklefuck runs in, and then it's ideally Josh Shapiro, and depending on what Fetterman's looking like, maybe Fetterman or either
Ro
Warnock or
Khanna.
Ossoff, like what or somebody else who pops up, maybe Whitmer. Like that's a much stronger bench in 4 years than now. Like there's not enough. Like if maybe Josh Shapiro could run, but like how we're like a year, what is he still going to run? Hey, remember when I rebuilt that bridge in 2 weeks? Like they, like we caught that guy in 2 weeks. Like I'm the 2 week president.
You know what?
Give me a
I
realistic option who's going to beat Trump because that's what matters right now.
well, I think most generic Democrats are going to beat Trump. I think
Thomas 100%.
Biden comes with a lot of baggage right now. We are seeing in every poll that is being conducted on this question, do you think Joe Biden is too old to be president again? And overwhelmingly, people are saying yes. And this isn't just Republicans. You can't like tie this down to like, oh, that's a Republican talking point. No, it's not. We saw like headline after headline. Democrats, 50, 60, 70% of Democratic voters don't want Joe Biden to run again. Been saying this for months now. They do not like him. They have honestly, a lot of people never liked him. They voted for him because he was the human being running against Donald Trump in 2020. I know I personally, that was my reason for voting for him. He was the
That's why I'm going
human
to vote for him
being.
again.
Yeah, he was the human being running against Donald Trump. I never wanted to vote for Joe Biden. It was a vote against Donald Trump. But I got to tell you, I think a lot of people might stay home in this election if it's a Biden Trump rematch. I think anybody being at the head of the Democratic ticket besides Joe Biden has a better chance against Trump than Biden does at this point. I think that if he stays in this race, he will lose to Donald Trump. He will lose to Trump. If Trump's in prison, he will lose to Donald Trump.
I
I,
don't. I
I think
disagree.
he is an anchor on this party right now.
I disagree strongly. You cannot say that Joe Biden is a larger anchor than Donald Trump is when Donald Trump is going to potentially be in prison. Like you can claim yeah, there's polls saying, hey, Joe Biden's old and shit. But if you look at the
Yeah.
polls about who cares about Donald Trump, every independent fucking hates him. Like, like if it comes down to it, they're going to vote for Joe Biden. And
I don't know.
there's
I don't
the
know
other
that they
scenario.
will.
I think they will because I think Donald Trump, especially if like we get the Georgia trial televised before the election, I think it's over. And also we haven't. This is the other thing that I talk about. There's the potential nuclear option that the Republican Party has, where he is convicted before their whatever their thing is that decides who their big party or whatever the fuck it's
The
called.
National Convention, the Republican
Yeah, the
National
convention.
Convention.
Um,
Yeah.
before that happens, or like it looks like he's going to be convicted, and he doesn't have enough votes, and they don't, and they say, okay, we're going to go with
Ron DeSantis.
Vivek. or who it's going to be Vivek over DeSantis. DeSantis may fall out before Iowa, or he'll like vanish like Pete did. But like anyway, like if Trump is not at the ticket, all of his voters are going home. Like this, like that's like in a scenario for that, I think like they get wiped out across the board, up and down the ballot, which is the best case scenario.
You know what?
Look,
I'd have to see it. I'd have to see it because, you know, we always just assume that Republican voters don't exist until election day when we're like, wow, I can't believe they have that much support. It happens every single cycle. You're just like, there's no way they could have this much support. And then it's like these razor thin margins all the time. They're constantly underrepresented in polls because they just don't trust them, so they don't take them. And they never, there's no real way to gauge where they're at. All we know is the election data that we get on election day. And in 2016, Donald Trump had 60 million people voting for him. And in 2020, he got 75 million people voting for him. So you're trying to tell me that a guy who had the media onslaught that Donald Trump had from 2016 to 2020 actually increased his raw vote total by 15 million people in America. And somehow we're just going to assume that this time, he's definitely not going to get the same number of support. There's just there's no logic to that.
I think there's a couple things you're miscounting. One, they're going to kill off a lot of their base. Like they just are. Like the Florida Surgeon General just came out and said, "Do not take the booster."
Oh, well,
just came out and said that.
Come on, I mean, like how many like thousands of people? That's not going to account for millions.
They died at a 43% higher clip.
But the total number of COVID deaths in America was what? A couple million?
Okay.
I mean, it's a large number.
It's enough
but like,
to swing
like when we're talking about like if he has 75 million voters overall, you're asking everyone who came out to vote for Joe Biden last time to come out again, and that's the thing that I'm skeptical of.
I think there's going to be more people because we don't have a metric for the Gen Z kids who are going to come out, because we saw them come out in 2022, and there's going to be more of them in 24. So like they're not going to vote for him.
That much I do believe. I do believe that the younger generation is more left, and I do believe that they despise Trump. Now, obviously, there's plenty of young Republicans out there. I'm not saying that everyone in that age bracket automatically votes for the left, but I think it's a disproportionate number.
It's like crazy.
Yeah, but the problem is the same problem that we have every year. It seems like an old talking point, but it's a relevant one. That this younger generation, you know, while being more politically active than millennials or Gen X or what have you, they're still young people and they don't vote at a high clip. And so the real question is, can Biden inspire them to come out? And does he have anything to offer besides vote against Trump? Because while that was a really potent argument while Trump was in office making a fool out of himself every day, it doesn't have the same weight that it did 4 years ago. And so I'm wondering, is Biden going to...
I think it has more weight.
I don't think it does. I think Biden needs to step up and give some people something to vote for, not just something to vote against.
Yeah, I agree with that. But like the thing that is so overwhelming is how much worse Trump is than he was in 16. Like I think it needs to be more that he is worse, and he's actively adamant about how he's going to be worse.
Yeah.
And it needs to be like really drilled in that he will bumblefuck his way into authoritarianism. Because I think I said this to you, if I don't about they don't care about who's at the top. The threat isn't directly from him or Vivek. I mean, it is from Ron because he has a little bit more understanding. It's the little gremlins, the little Stephen Millers that they're going to put to gut the rest of the government in. That's the threat. And that's what they're like. That is, I think, overwhelming enough to like, yes. And this comes back to kind of the Breonna Greg, Kyle Clancy thing. Like, yeah, I would love to have a vote for Joe Biden because Joe Biden inspired me. Like Bernie inspired so many people, but that's not who he is. And the answer to, well, when is it going to be, oh, the opposition is so much worse, so you should vote for me. When the opposition isn't literal fascists. That's the answer. Like I don't give a shit. Like I cannot stress this enough. I don't care about, being inspired if the opposition is a fascist. I'm going to vote against fascism every single time, and I say every single American. And this is how I'll frame it. If you don't like New York or California or some shit where you're a safe blue vote,
Yeah.
and you don't want to vote for Joe Biden, knock yourself out. However, you vote blue down that fucking ballot, because if New York didn't shit the bed, we would have a whole different conversation about a whole bunch of different stuff. Like
Yeah, no,
that's what the ultimate argument does. Do you believe that Joe Biden is worse than fascism? And if not, you're an idiot.
all right. Well, I mean, I think I watched the Breonna Joy Gray and Kyle Kalinske debate as well. And I fall somewhere, I think, in the middle of both of them. Because I think what Brianna was saying about like losing faith in Democratic Party, like just not wanting to keep voting for them, you know, time and time again, while never seeing them get better and having no incentive to get better, that is a real concern. But I also saw what Kyle was saying was just like, well, there are good things happening under the Biden administration, and what is going to happen if we don't vote for Democrats? It is truly a conflicting situation that we find ourselves in, and I kind of want to end this conversation here. But I think that we kind of owe it to people to be having this conversation, because I think, you know, while I agree, if I'm in a swing state, I'm going to be voting for Joe Biden, even though I don't think he should be running, and I would love for a different Democrat to be at the top of the ticket. I also don't think that we should not be criticizing the Democrats viciously the entire time, because at the moment they don't have an incentive to be better, and it's problematic for so many different reasons.
Can I just real quick on this? Absolutely. And don't think that I'm like not criticizing Joe Biden for this, because I believe I have during this. He's better than the alternative, but he is not better than what we deserve. And if you really want to have power, and this is what I think is missing mostly from these third-party arguments, if you want to have a seat at the table and make the argument, go win. Go win at a local level, go win at a state level, go win in Congress, go win a fucking governorship. You can't be that asshole who shows up every 4 years and like, who is this clown? Howie Hawkins won 4,000 votes to be the nominee. Like that was the size of like my town. Like that was smaller than my college. Like if you want to have a seat at the table as a third party to be taken seriously, where you could chunk some of the votes and stuff, go win. Go prove that you deserve a seat at the table. Go earn that seat at the table. You want to push the Democratic Party to the left like I do? You go, you nominate people like AOC. You take people like Manchin out of the party. Like, to be fair, there is never going to be another Democrat who wins in West Virginia. It's just not going to happen. We can recognize that. But you can take out people like Chris Coons. You could take out people like Kristen Sinema. You could take out people like Josh Gottheimer. Like, you can do things like that, and that will have a bigger impact in the long run than just who the president is. Like, if you build the power at the base, and it takes work. This is not easy. This is not an easy project to accomplish.
Yeah.
But if you're going to sit here and say, well, I want somebody other than Biden, and I'm not going to vote for Biden because it's Biden, then, all right, I hope you can run from fascism. Because that's the option. Like, until the option isn't that, like, if Nikki Haley or Chris Christie or one of these, like, or like Tim Scott was the front runner, this would be a very different conversation. But they're not. They're not going to win the nomination. They may get third if they're lucky. Until the fascists lose, you're going to go to the non-fascist party. It's as simple as that.